Hi, Adam Wakefield here. In today's video, I'm going to talk you through how to use MyFitnessPal, which is an app that you're able to download onto your phone that allow you to track how many calories you're eating each day. For those of you following a macro focused plan, that's how many grams of protein, carbohydrates and fats you're able to eat each day in order to help you reach your body composition goals. This app is a fantastic tool to help you take advantage of exactly doing that. In this video, I'll take you through how to set the app up, how to track your food, and how to input recipes. I hope you enjoy it and I hope you find it useful. So once you've downloaded the MyFitnessPal app onto your phone, you'll click on the icon when it's on your home screen, and that'll bring you onto the home page for MyFitnessPal app. On the bottom right hand corner, you'll see a button saying More. I want you to click on that first, and that'll take you onto this page here. Whilst we're here, we're going to click Goals, and that'll take us through to the goals section of MyFitnessPal app. And the first thing we're going to do is select our current weight. Now, our current weight is obviously the weight that you currently weigh. Obviously, I'm going to set this just for argument's sake at 200 pounds, just to show you how to do it. So once I've selected 200 pounds within the app, I'll use a little tick icon and I'll set that as my current weight. The next one you'll click is the goal weight. And let's say, for example's sake here, I want to weigh 190 pounds. So that's my goal weight, my purpose of dieting at this moment in time, to lose 10 pounds. So I'm going to set that as 190 pounds. My weekly goal is to lose £1 a week. So that's already set. The next one we'll click on is going to be our activity level. So setting our activity level is easy. There's four parts to the activity levels. You've got not very active. That's for someone who sits at home, doesn't really do much exercise, doesn't really move much. The next one up from this is lightly active. That's for someone who does a desk job, sits at home, doesn't really move much, maybe works out once or twice a week, maybe 3 times as a maximum there. Active is the next one. That's for someone who typically works out maybe, let's say, 3 to 4 times a week. They're on their feet whilst they're at work, so they're moving around. They might walk to work, but they do still sit down a fair bit. And then you've got really active or very active. So these people are going to the gym, let's say 5 or 6 times a week. They do a manual job, so they're on their feet quite a lot, and they're burning lots of calories. So for argument's sake, again, generally people fit into the active range, so I'm going to set it as that. It doesn't overly matter with regards to the activity level. It's just to give you a brief idea of how to set this up. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to set our calorie target, our carbohydrate target, our protein target, and our fat target. So your coach should have given you these numbers, or you should have been able to work them out for yourself. And all you're going to do now is input the data that you've been given or that you've worked out into the MyFitnessPal app. So the first thing you'll click on will be calories. Okay, so once you click on calories here, you'll be able to input the amount of calories that is your goal at this moment in time. So for argument's sake, again, I'm going to input that as 2,500 calories. And then I'll click on carbohydrates, which will bring me onto this screen here. And what you're going to do is basically trying to fit your macros, that your targets that you've been given or set yourself into the app. So you have to play around with the percentages here, because in order to enter the exact grams, you're going to have to use the MyFitnessPal Premium app. And that's actually a paid version of this. So you have to actually pay either a monthly or a yearly subscription in order to use it and set your calorie targets as grams rather than as percentages. So to be more exact, they actually charge you money in order to log them as grams. But you can see here, that's what the MyFitness Premium costs look like. So if you don't want to do that and you just want to do what I'm doing and set a percentage, then just use them as a rough guide and try and get as close towards your macro targets as you can when you're setting them for yourself. That's what I do, and I'll try and, as I said, just play around with the percentages on each of the macros to try and make them get as close towards the targets that I'm setting myself without going too far away from those. And just to give me a brief target for when I look at my calories and my macro targets at the end of each day in my diary, I want what I'm eating to match closely to those numbers. So as I said, this is just giving us a rough guideline. That's how we do set up though our calories, our carbohydrate target, our protein target, and our fat target. Okay, and what you'll then do is save all that. Okay, that just makes sure that our goals are set up. As I said, our goals for our calorie targets, our weight, and our macro targets. So they're all set in stone now. And what we'll then do is go into our diary. So we'll go back to this main screen here, and we'll click down the bottom onto our diary. Okay, and this is where we begin to log our food. So you can see in my food diary, I've got meal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and snacks. So that's just an easier way for me to view exactly how I want to set up my daily food. The way you set that up is you go into the settings. Okay, and within the settings portion of the MyFitnessPal app, it will bring you into this screen here. Okay, and what you want to go to is your diary settings. So once you click on diary settings, it will bring you to this option here. Okay, and once you go to customize meal names, that's where you can set each meal. So most people have breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, but I wanted to have it's set up as meal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and snacks, because that's easier for me to log my food into as I eat more than 3 meals a day. Back to the food diary. Okay, so you just click on the diary option on the screen, and that'll bring you into this option here. And this is where we begin to log our food. So if you hit add food under meal 1, it's going to bring you on to allowing you to search for a food or to actually use what you've tracked previously. So you can see the history there. That's different foods that I've logged all the way through using MyFitnessPal, and that just makes things a little bit quicker for you. Once you start logging your food, if you eat the same things, it'll allow you to track it much faster, because you can just go down to your history and find what you're looking for. But let's say, for example, I'm having a grenade protein bar here with a coffee for breakfast. As you can see in the history section there, once I type grenade in, it brings up the options of what I've eaten previously. And let's say that I had a cookie dough protein bar here. These are the macros, or the calorie contents of the protein bar. So you can see there it's got the carbohydrates, the fat, and the protein amounts for a 60-gram bar. I'm going to log that into my food diary by hitting the tick, and that'll allow me then to start the logging for this day. So as I said, let's say I have a protein bar and a coffee in the morning. That's going to be meal 1. For meal 2, I'm going to have some eggs on toast. So first thing I'm going to log is eggs, and even though the options are there below in the history, I'm going to show you here just how to search for it. So you type in large eggs or eggs large, and then it'll give you a load of options here. If you see the little green tick next to the large eggs, that's usually the right macros for the food. It means it's been input correctly. If you scroll down, it'll give you, as I said, the carbohydrates, fats, and protein for a large egg. And then I'm just going to input 3 here, because I'm having 3 eggs. I want to make sure that the serving size is correct. So as you saw there, 1 egg was 70 calories. I type 3 servings of the eggs, and this then logs it as 3 eggs and gives me the calorie totals for that. I'll then have some sourdough bread. When you get lots of options of different calorie targets for things like bread, I generally just go for the middle range. So, you've got 100 calories there, 150 calories, 120 calories. I usually go for the in-between number, and that normally sees me right. Or obviously I can be more exact, look at the nutrition packet and match the nutrition packet to the calories that I'm tracking. But there you can just see that I'm also tracking the amount of oil that I've cooked the eggs in. So let's say I've used olive oil here, and I'm using a teaspoon of olive oil. I'll go into searching for olive oil. I'll select olive oil here, and then I'm not having a tablespoon because that'll be too many calories. I've only had a teaspoon. So I'll go to the serving size here. I'll hit 1 teaspoon, and then I'll just make sure that in the serving it says 1. So then I hit the tick, that logs it into my diary, and that then gives me 3 eggs cooked with 1 teaspoon of olive oil and 2 slices of sourdough bread. So that'll then give me a breakfast. So I've had like a grenade bar, I've had some eggs on toast, obviously still tracking the oil because that contains calories. So anything which contains calories needs to go into your food diary, and then that'll add up the amount of calories that I'm currently eating. Okay, so once I've eaten those, let's say for the next meal, I'm going to scan now some dates. So the way that you do that, as I just showed you in the video, is you click on the little scanning icon, okay, and you ensure that the calories that you're eating for the dates matches what's on the back of the nutrition packet. Okay, so you can see here it's a 30 grams serving, but if I want to increase the amount of dates that I'm eating, I can either track it as 2 if I want to have 2 servings of 60 grams of dates, or if I don't want to have 60 grams of dates but I want to have 50 grams, I can go into the serving and serving size rather, change it to 1 gram for for a portion size, and then change the portion size to 50, which will give me 50 grams. So that there just again shows you exactly how to use the serving size to best suit the amount of food that you're currently eating. So as I said, I wanted to have 50 grams of dates there. I can either track that as a gram portion, then 50 portions of that, and that'll give me 50 grams. If I wanted to have 60 grams, I can just track it as 2 servings, because that would obviously be 30 grams a serving, and 2 times 30 would be 60 grams. Okay, similar thing if I'm tracking rice cakes. I can scan the barcode, comes up with 1 rice cake. Let's say I want to eat 5 of them. All I'll do is just track as 5 servings of 1 rice cake, which would obviously be the quantity needed for 5 rice cakes. Okay, so let's say that's my food thus far for the day. If you scroll right the way down to the bottom, you're met with these options. And if you click on nutrition, it brings you onto a calorie split. So that will give you a split for how many calories you're eating per meal. So per of my meals, it's how many calories I'm eating in each of those. But the main one I'm going to concentrate on is the nutrients. Okay. So within the nutrients here, we've got protein, carbohydrates, and fat alongside some other information. But the main ones we're concentrating on is protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And what we want to do is we want to try and get our protein target, but this is for the end of the day, as close to our goal target for the grams as possible. So whilst I'm logging my food each day, I can go to the nutrition section, go into the nutrients part of this, and then try and actually match the amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fat that I'm eating each day. So it's a really useful tool, this nutrition section of the MyFitnessPal diary, because it allows you to see how you're getting on as you're eating. One of the things I do tell clients to do is to actually forward plan. So track their food a day ahead and kind of eat off a menu. So what they can do is sit there, take some time into planning what they want to eat for the next day, and then try and ensure that the calories that they're eating matches, or rather their macro targets match what I've told them to eat. So each day they can log it, try and get their macro targets as close as they can to their protein, carbohydrates, and fat, the targets that I've given them, and that then stops them from either overeating or undereating or leaving too many calories at the end of the day. So it's a really useful tool to use in order to help you out. Well, the other thing I'll take to note here is ensuring that I don't have any exercise apps added into my fitness diary. So what the apps and devices do is they can actually take or rather add calories for you to eat on top of your current target. So just make sure that all of the apps are turned off and not added to your diary, and that allows you then to just stick to the calorie target without anything being messed up and any of the numbers being messed up. As I said, the main thing you want to do is be as consistent as possible, and not log anything, or rather overlog anything, depending on whether you have an exercise app telling you to eat more calories. So as I said, the main focus that we're going to do is tracking our protein, carbohydrates, and our fats, and we use our diary for that. Tracking food can either be done via weighing it, measuring it, or by scanning the barcode and inputting it into your food diary.
One thing to bear in mind when you're tracking your food is whether your food is raw or whether it's cooked. Now, raw food and cooked food will generally give you different calorie totals because the cooking process removes some of the weight of the food. As you can see in the screenshot that I'm recording here, I've put potatoes cooked and potatoes raw. You can see the difference there between the two macronutrients contents of the potatoes, and that's generally down to if I was to have a raw potato and weigh it and it weighed 200 grams and then cook it, some of the weight will be lost in the potato, and I'll probably end up getting a potato which is much lighter than 200 grams when I then eat it. This will obviously have an effect on the calorie target that I'm trying to get to and the amount of calories that I'm eating and logging into my food diary. White rice especially, you can see here that the raw weight of 1 cup of white rice contains a huge amount of calories compared to 1 cup of cooked rice, and this again is down to the cooking process changing the volume of rice that you're going to be eating, and therefore the amount of calories that you'll be consuming. So as you cook the rice, it obviously absorbs water and expands, and therefore if you're weighing it once you have cooked the white rice, 1 cup will contain a lot less rice and therefore a lot less calories than if you were to be logging it raw and then putting it into your food diary. The same thing goes for meat and fish. 100 grams of cooked chicken or cooked meat is going to be a larger volume of food in comparison to its raw weight, and so it will give you a different calorie total and a different macronutrient total as well. So it's just something to bear in mind that once you've logged it into your food diary, you want to make sure that it is logged correctly, so either raw or cooked depending on how you have weighed it. I generally use a cooked measurement because that's a little bit more accurate, and that's what I've always done.
So the last thing I'll take you through in MyFitnessPal is how to use the recipe creation part of it. So this allows you to create a recipe and input the ingredients within that and divide that into certain portions. This will obviously be very helpful for those of you who cook the same foods and the same meals each week, and allow you to make tracking that much easier and more accurate as long as you keep the same recipe. So again, we're at the home page of the MyFitnessPal app. We're going to click on more again, and this time we're going to go down to My Meals, Recipes and Foods, and we're going to click that button. That'll take us to this page here, and at the bottom you'll see in white writing on a blue line, it will say create a recipe. We're going to hit that button, and what that will do then is bring us onto adding ingredients, which we'll click add manually. Now here we're going to enter the title of the thing we're cooking. So obviously for now I'm just going to put cake in because that's what we're going to pretend that we're making. And the serving size is quite an important thing to get right here, because that will break the macros down for the entire cake into how many portions that you're going to be tracking within MyFitnessPal. So let's say that this cake that we're baking, we're going to have 8 slices from it. So what it will do is it will give you the macros for an 1/8 of that cake. Same thing as if you were doing a bolognese and you're having 4 portions, you just put it in as 4 servings, and that will give you the exact macros. Okay, so let's say the first ingredient that we're going to input for our cake is going to be large eggs. So what we're going to do is we're going to look on MyFitnessPal for the macros of our large eggs. We've looked at our nutrition label and we've seen that they are 70 calories an egg, and we're going to have 3 of them. So we're going to put 3 large eggs into our recipe. We're then going to go and put in some flour. Okay, so self-raising flour is a second ingredient that we're going to input into our recipe, and let's say that we're going to have 100 grams of self-raising flour. So we're going to put 200 grams actually. Okay, so what we want to make sure here is that our serving size is correct. So we can see there it's logged as 100 grams, and then when we put the number of servings in, make sure that you input the correct one, because you see here if I put 200 thinking it's 1 gram per serving, you can see the macros and the calories are really wrong. So I'm going to put 2 here. That'll make it 200 grams, and that'll give us the exact calories and macro breakdown for 200 grams of self-raising flour. We're going to click the little tick, and then that will add it to our recipe. So once we're here, it shows us that we've included 3 eggs and our self-raising flour at this moment in time. The next ingredient we're going to add is going to be sugar. Let's say we're going to have Demerara sugar. So you can just type sugar in and go and find Demerara sugar here, or you could type Demerara sugar into the search engine. It will give you more Demerara sugar options. And in here, we're going to input, let's say 50 milliliters of sugar. So again, you can track it however you want to track it, with whatever measurement you feel happiest with, tablespoons, teaspoons, or for me here, I'm going to put milliliters in, and I'm going to have 50 of those. Okay, this cake recipe is not one to be copied. I'm literally just showing you how to input ingredients, so please don't copy this, as it's not going to make a nice cake whatsoever. As I said, I'm merely just showing you how to actually create that recipe. So once we've got these ingredients listed here, we're then going to add another one. And let's say we're going to add some butter in here. Okay, so we just type in butter. Again, you can find the exact one that you're using with the exact calorie breakdown on the packet and just make sure it matches that. Okay, and let's say we're having 5 tablespoons now of sugar. Again, don't copy this recipe. I'm merely showing you different options of how to track your food within a recipe. Okay, and the last ingredient we're going to add is, let's say, cocoa powder. All right, so we type in cocoa powder into our ingredient search list, and that brings us up these options here. We find the one that we want, and so we're going to log, let's say, 100 grams of cocoa powder. So that's the recipe for our cake. Okay, and once we're happy with it and we've got everything in for that cake within our recipe, whether you're going to put icing on it, put it all into the same recipe because it's all part of the same calories. Don't have to split it up. Or if you put jam in it or anything like that, you know, butter, cream, it all has to go in. The ingredients have to go into that recipe because it will give you, as you can see here, a breakdown for a slice of cake. And that slice of cake is an eighth. So I've saved the recipe. Okay, and now you can see that's in my recipe selection, and that's all the other recipes that I've created myself. Okay, so when I want to log, let's say later on tonight, I'm going to be having a slice of cake. So I want to log one slice of cake into my food diary. So I'll click the diary section of that. I'll go down to, let's say I'm eating that, you know, during meal 5, and I'll type cake into my search engine. If I hit the recipes icon just above where the search engine is, you'll see there that I've actually got cake saved there. I don't want to search for cake because that'll give me different options of it, but my recipe is what I want. So I'll then click on the little tick, which gives me my macro breakdown for one slice of cake. Remember, that's an eighth. So I have to slice 8 slices into this cake, and that'll give me the exact macros for an eighth of this cake. And I've logged it into my food diary. Let's say that I then end up eating 2 slices of cake. I'm quite greedy like that, so it probably would happen. So now I've eaten 2 slices of the cake. I've changed the serving size to 2, and that then logs the cake as 2 servings in my food diary. That obviously gives me the exact calorie breakdown for that recipe, which I have made myself and then logged within my food diary. So it's a really useful thing of MyFitnessPal to have, because those of you who cook your own meals, you can actually log the recipes, and then as long as you keep the recipe the same, input the serving of that recipe into your MyFitnessPal, and it makes logging that much easier. So there you have it, MyFitnessPal wrapped up. I hope you found that video of some use. If you did, please like the video, share it with others who might also find it useful, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as there'll be more videos to come.